Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Hello and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I am here today with Ezra Parter, Evan Liu, and Jackie K. And we're here to discuss Colorado Avalanche hockey. Thank you folks very much for joining us. Please head on over to milehighhockey.com. If you enjoyed this content, we have a lot more in written form over there. And of course, please give us a follow at all caps MHH_lab and at Mile High Hockey. We have a lot to talk about today, which is awesome. You're starting to feel hockey bubbling to the surface, and we have real pertinent topics to discuss today. I'll just quickly rattle those off so you know what's coming for you. We got a preseason update and takeaways from the action we've seen between our last show and now, which our last show was on Tuesday. And we will get into what things are starting to look like with the NHL season on the horizon. We'll do a little bit of a divisional preview. And of course, we will check in with our young guns in our give and take edition and finish things off with some bold predictions. So thank you to the three of you. And thank you to all of you folks out there in the ether world watching us do our thing. Please head on over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts to check out our full catalog. Okay, we're ready to roll. Let's drop the puck. Evan, I'm going to start with you as usual. We've had a couple of preseason games, since our last episode, one of which was a Stars game in Dallas and the other an Avalanche versus Utah game in Colorado. I want to get your major takeaways from both of those contests. And just kind of see how you're feeling as we wind into the new season.
Well, I guess I'll say my favorite takeaway is that ESPN Plus didn't cut out the game in the third period like they did for the first one.
Yeah,
They
So
still
I'll take
didn't
that.
put the replay on NHL Network though, so
and
they
I think
still get
kind of
thumbs
too
down.
on top of that.
Yeah.
You look at the Utah game was kind of just like, whatever, right? Dylan Gunther almost scored a hat trick. That tells you how that goes. There was nothing really super big that I took away from him, I guess. The Avs are now 0-3 in the preseason. Whatever, it's meaningless. If you're 3-0, then it means that your season's going to be perfect. That's just how it goes. And we'll talk more on some of the players later on too. Of like Kovalenko, of course, was really good. Cal Ritchie's goal last game, that was a phenomenal goal. He said it was intended to fake that wrist shot. I don't know personally, but yeah, I mean, not a ton to take away from them besides they happened, and at least we didn't get cut coverage.
Yeah, well, I like that major takeaway because I too was excited to actually get to watch the game. But Jackie, you chimed in a little bit there at the end, and yeah, we didn't get the NHL rewatch, which is unfortunate. So those of us who weren't able to find the stream night of didn't really have a chance to watch it otherwise. But nonetheless, I do agree with you that like it's hard to have major takeaways from a preseason game, but it was good to see some familiar faces, one of which was Cal Ritchie. Ezra, can you expand upon kind of what you saw, and how are you feeling, I guess, about, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because we have our give and take segment, but are you still confident about the numbers game for some of these young guys?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the game. Evan already said it was a little meh that game.
Yeah.
Bednar said he loved the effort the game before and was disappointed by that one. So I thought overall the game was not Colorado really bringing their best A for effort, and that's disappointing when you're looking at guys trying to make the roster.
Yeah.
But individual guys looked really good. Sam Malinsky scored a wonderful goal. Cal Ritchie scored a wonderful goal. That is exciting. And I think, the numbers game that we've been talking about kind of all offseason hasn't really changed, but these guys are making a push to say, hey, regardless of the numbers, you got to keep me in mind. And that's great. Definitely with the forward group. I mean, we know obviously there's some holes in the lineup and they need to be filled. And Cal Ritchie made a case that he could fill it in on the offensive end and a case that he maybe can't on the defensive end. We'll get into that more later, I'm sure. But, and nobody else really stood out and took took that away from him, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
he's still at the top of the list for probable guys to make the roster despite a tougher effort, because nobody else said, hey, no, actually this is my job. So yeah, that's my big takeaway. That game didn't showcase anybody super positively except those two guys.
Yeah, and I believe that was the one game that Kovalenko didn't play in either, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Which to me checks out because I think Kovalenko Cal Ritchie's been I think good in terms of kind of like how quickly things have escalated in his development. But I think Kovalenko is far and away the clear most improved and most proven player from camp and preseason so far. Jackie, I have a twofold question. One, touch on Kovalenko and kind of what the guys have already touched on. And two, why do you think the Avalanche have been so like stash and secretive with their preseason lineups?
Because that's the organization. Like, It starts from the very top. It starts from decades ago. The cloak and dagger, that's how they operate. I mean, they know. Bednar is a very planned guy.
Yeah.
He probably knew before the preseason even started a general idea of who he wanted to play in each game. Like, they know. They don't share anything, and they get away with it. And I don't know why it's that way, but it's continued to go that way for years. And ever since they won the cup again, I think that they just say, we're amazing and come and get it if you care about this team or you care about anything about it. And, they just look at like they're doing everybody a favor. Like, oh, you want to cover this team, we're doing you a favor. You want to make video content, cool. It's not up to us to do. I mean, they don't even make their own video content anymore. So it's just so par for the course. It's just amazing to me that they get away with it, but I guess they do. As far as my takeaway is that I agree you can't extrapolate anything from what's happened into the regular season because they haven't played anyone. I mean, these rosters every night are inferior going up against the other team. Even in the very first game against Dallas had a better lineup.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of, and that game was at home, and Dallas brought a better lineup. It's just so. It's funny to me. The quote is about, "Oh, Richie didn't play well defensively." He had Matthew Phillips and Inola on his wings. Two small guys, not proven at all, not soft, not physical, can be a bit soft. I mean, I'm not saying that Richie doesn't bear any responsibility here, but I mean, what were you expecting? I was at that game in the second row. There was a lot of gross structure that imploded. There was a lot of guys not being able to handle each other's passes.
Yeah.
So if you're evaluating his defensive ability based on that, I mean, which is why I think that when he finally plays with an NHL teammate, then we'll be able to see, can he hold up. But I know we'll talk about Richie. I have a few more points, but we'll talk about him
save
more in
him,
depth
save
later.
him for our give and take segment, because I think we'll all have lots to say in terms of that when that segment rolls around. But I don't want to glance over kind of what you said. I do want to touch on it because I agree with you. Like, I don't know, maybe this is naive and maybe this is just like a good strategy because I want to see Cal Ritchie make the team. But with Cal Ritchie right now, I think you take the good with the bad, and you, like, even if he is struggling defensively, I think that's what you're expecting to develop anyway. And the other side of the game, which might be further along than most his age, I think you kind of accept that as a reality right now. But that's not to say like it's a forever thing. Like, obviously he will have to be a two-way player, especially if he wants to play in the top six for Jared Bednar. Now, who knows what the future holds, but I do agree with the fact that it was kind of sloppy, but I also agree that it's hard to really take something when the roster so far for the Avalanche have been meh, like as we said about the games. And I think that's what you're seeing more of. We're apparently going to get, I think, probably more usuals, as we call them, tonight. Is that confirmed? I mean, yeah. So
it's maybe like 60-40. It's definitely getting there.
I think we're getting Mikko McKinnon and Makar tonight. So I mean,
I don't know why we need to see another game of TJ Tynan. Why Jason Megna's still there? He's not even on an NHL contract. Why did they need to see him in the fourth preseason game?
Interesting.
Guys like Rosen. I mean, I know they're trying to get as much data as they can on some of these guys. I mean, you've already had them. You know what they can do. You know what they look like in the NHL. To me, it's just ridiculous that we have to see any more of them.
Here, if I could, this is from Evan Rowell from Morning Skate this morning. These are the players that were on the ice this morning anyway. McKinnon, Rantanen, Kovalenko, which, side note, Kovalenko is playing on McKinnon's line. Bednar did confirm that.
Nice.
I'm very excited to watch that tonight. You also have Inola, Miles Wood, Belmar, Megna, Steinberg, Tynan, Foodie, Ivan, who we'll touch on later, of course, Jason Poland, Matthew Phillips. So at least one of the forwards will be scratched there.
Okay.
Maybe for Jackie's case, it's Tynan, hopefully.
I can't do it anymore. I really can't. I can't do it anymore.
On defense, you have Kyle Makar, so he'll get his first appearance. Eric Randstrom, Calvin DeHaan, Sean Behrens. Apparently, Behrens was with Makar at Morning Skate, like paired with him, so that might be interesting to watch. And then
let it rip, Sean.
You have Cal Rosen and Jack Aiken. Or Jack Akon, I don't know how you say it. The Utah people were screwing it up last night. They were like Akon. I was like, I
think it's a Chon.
Is it a Chon? Whatever. But and then in net you had a Georgiev and Annunen too. So this is probably the closest lineup that we'll get during preseason. I would imagine. We still haven't seen Casey Middlestad or Jonathan Drouin yet in this preseason, which I find interesting. But
I think that'll happen in the next game.
Feels like they're splitting up kind of the usuals to a point. Like you don't really want to split up McKinnon and Mikko because you want them to play on the same line, kind of thing. So I think there's a little bit of jostling as far as that's concerned, and I hope we see Middlestat and Drew in the next one. Because correct me if I'm wrong, the Avs have 3 more, including tonight. Correct?
Yes.
Preseason games. Okay, yeah. So we should, we'll definitely see him. But I do want to move on to kind of like, to me, if Gabe Landeskog weren't recovering, and if Cal Ritchie wasn't doing his thing, this would be the most pressing topic. We would have beaten the live horses, as we put it last week, to death with the Mikko Rantanen contract. It's October 1st, and all of us were kind of hopeful that we would see Mikko Rantanen signed in the month of September. Obviously, that didn't happen, and the ship hasn't sailed on him signing before the season. It might even come in the next hour or so, because that's kind of just how the Avalanche work. But Evan, I'll start with you. What's your level of concern with the Mikko lack of signing? Are you starting to feel a little bit of concern? And how do you think this bodes for the Avalanche in the big picture if Mikko doesn't sign this season?
I'm not too concerned yet. I mean, you technically still have until you still have a ways, I guess. You still have, like, you could come in the next hour, and you still have over a week until the regular season starts in Vegas. So I'm not too concerned about it. I obviously wish it had been done sooner, of course. We got the Logan O'Connor contract already, which was kind of blew everybody by surprise, right?
Right.
So I'm not super concerned about it. If I'm not mistaken, too, his last contract that he signed, I feel like I remember going up until like 3 days before opening night or something.
Yeah,
like
he
that.
held out too, though. He wasn't there.
So I'm not super concerned about it yet. Ask me next week if it's not signed by then. Then there might be some problems.
Yeah, and Jackie, I want to send this one your way because I feel like you touched on this in episodes past, but it feels like they are kind of setting a precedent to like sign these core guys ahead of the season. If that doesn't happen, what does that tell you about the way the Avalanche view Rantanen? Does it change your opinion of that, or not really at all, as long as he gets re-signed at some point?
Let's just put it this way. The longer it takes, the more it's going to cost. So you can say, I mean, sure, I agree. It could happen any second. It could happen next week. That's okay. I mean, it could happen a month from now. It could happen next year. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but it's not getting any cheaper. I mean, they just came out today. They expect the cap to go up $5 more million. Okay, that's another.
Whoops.
That's just one more thing. I mean, the longer you wait, you get comparables. You get these things like hearing the cap going up. Like, it's not going in the other direction the longer you wait. So, I'm sure they'd like to have him signed. And no, I don't think of it as like, oh, they don't think he's core. I mean, if you prioritize Logan O'Connor over Mikko Rantanen, then you're not winning the cup again. So I don't think that's it, but it's not as simple then as everybody is saying. Then he's asking for something that they're not willing to do. That's a concern.
Yeah.
Can they still meet in the middle? Maybe. But like I said, it's not going the other direction.
No. Well, and Ezra, I want to send this one to you, because this, to me, based on what Jackie said there, the real important question with Mikko Rantanen is, do you see there being a figure and a term that the Avalanche just simply would not pay for Mikko Rantanen? And if that's a reality, what are your options?
Well, I mean, if that's reality, your option would be to trade him, but I don't see that as a realistic situation. Like, this, to me, what's happening here is probably both sides have offers on the table, and Mikko's like, hey, let's just wait and see what this cap bump is going to be, and the Avs are like, okay, cool. And then when everybody knows the actual numbers, they're going to sign something. I'm not worried about it at all.
That would be a huge concern for me, that he's that close to walking. The Avs getting nothing.
I didn't say walking.
I mean, when you hear what the figure is, it's going to be pretty close to the off season. Like, it's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah,
it's gonna. They're probably going to estimate it in like March or something. So
I guess let's put it like this.
I imagine the Avs will know something sooner than we will.
Yeah, for sure. That's undoubtable. But I guess let's pose the question a little bit different. So we've discussed at length the fact that like it doesn't really make sense for the Avalanche to pay more than they paid Nathan MacKinnon. He could get really close to as much as that, but so I mean that's in an ideal world. So is there a figure like what is too much for Mikko Rantanen? If he asks what's the highest AAV right now? 12 and a half? 13?
It's pretty hard. Yeah, 13 maybe. I mean, it's pretty hard to hear, oh, there's going to be another $5 million. And then to be like, draw a line in the sand and be like, nope, we can't pay you more than 12. I mean,
Well,
then your window's over. You're done. So
yeah.
a lot of these teams operate on percentage of cap, right? So until you
Right.
know the cap number, it's hard to say like this is the
That's
number
a
that is
good
this
point.
X percentage of the cap. So I feel like it really does come down to just a little more time will give them the actual number that they need. And I would be shocked if there's I don't know anything. I'm just a guy, but I would be shocked if there's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, let's just put it this way: Draisaitl just got 14 million AAV, right? So it's like, where do you rank Mikko in the realm of the Leon Draisaitl's? I mean, he's closer than he is far away, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, sure, I could say that's too much. But then, like I said, you look at it at the end of the day, they have no window without him. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of have to do it.
It's an interesting situation because I think all this conversation really points out is that like the ball is really in Mikko Rantanen's court. Like he could really, I mean, I hope this doesn't happen, but he could really strong arm this situation into getting a number that is closer to what he'd get on the open market than really Avs fans are comfortable with. Because he has what Jackie's talking about, which is obviously he's not the only thing about the window, but he's definitely the extension of the window. You know what I mean? Like
I think they might not even make the playoffs without him.
Yeah,
I think it's like that critical.
Let's put it this way, at least all of this contract negotiation drama stuff is not like the Jeremy Swayman situation where it's all just out for the entire world to see.
Yeah, but I bet that dude will be under contract in like a week. So
we might touch on that later, the Swayman stuff, but yeah,
he might sign before Mikko.
It's true.
Yeah, at least McFarland's not going out on interviews and saying, "Well, we offered Mikko 11.25 already a year, and he's not taking it." That was a bad look, if you ask me. But yeah, we'll get into that later on in the show.
Depends if it works or not. Depends what the conclusion is.
Yeah.
Well, let's say they did offer him 11.25. That would make him the fourth highest paid. No, yeah, I was right. Third highest paid winger in the league.
Yeah.
Behind Panarin and William Nylander. 11.25 is exactly what David Pastrnak makes.
Yeah,
that seems fair.
That's pretty fair.
But also,
then I think if
would you pay him more? Would you pay Mikko Rantanen more than Artemi Panarin or William Nylander? I would.
Yeah, I would too.
So
I would honestly
around 12.
I would pay him more than Nathan MacKinnon based on the window part of this. Based on the fact that like it doesn't I understand the percentage of the cap and you don't want to spend too much on 2 or 3 guys. But at the same time, you got to really understand.
That's kind of where we are. Like,
yeah,
bed.
Yeah, we made that bed. We got to kind of line it. We got a core that is Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, and Nathan MacKinnon. At the end,
every team would kill to have to pay those 3 guys.
Exactly.
You do it. There's no question. That's why I'm not worried about this at all, because it will happen. Whatever the number ends up being, it's fine.
Oh, and he's been very vocal about not wanting to leave. So there's really no like. There's other than the fact that it hasn't happened, there's nothing on the surface that tells you it won't. It's just I'm now getting more and more concerned / not necessarily concerned, but interested in what this figure is actually going to look like when the dust settles and that contract does get signed. But let's use that as a segue, Evan, to move on into our next segment, which is our season start and divisional preview sort of segment, which folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We got 315 live viewers right now, and if you could please head on over to X, give us a follow, head on over to YouTube and subscribe and turn on your alerts so you know every time we're live, and the same goes for Twitch. That way you never miss a single one of these awesome Mile High Hockey Labs. This is our 74th lab of our existence, so thank you folks for tuning in. But Ezra, let's get into this. On the surface, how do you think the Avalanche stack up against their division with comings and goings in the off seasons in terms of these rosters?
Yeah, well, I think you look at the prime competition from last year, and it's Dallas and Winnipeg, right? Winnipeg's probably gotten a little worse. Nashville's probably gotten a lot better. So that conversation becomes the three of those teams versus the Avalanche in my eyes. The rest of the Central, maybe there's something there, but we don't know yet. I would be, you could say Utah might be pushing, but we'll see. And to me, I would take the Avalanche over the Jets any day. I would take the Avs over the Predators any day. And the Stars is a bit more of a challenge. That they're a deep, good team. Losing Pavelski hurts. Changing their defense probably hurts, but maybe helps just because Suter and Tanev were good, but also very slow. So, there's potential for that defense to be even better with Lyubushkin and if they can get something decent out of Matt Dumba, then that could be good. But overall, that team is still very stacked, and that's a really strong competitor for the Avs. But I do think the Avs finish 2 or 3 probably in this division, just because it's going to be hard for them to get out to a fast start. But once they get going, they're going to be able to pass Winnipeg or Nashville. I think. I'm not buying Nashville stock. I get why people are excited about them, but not me.
Well, yeah, Evan, expand on that. How do you feel about the Nashville situation? Obviously, they added Stamkos as the kind of highlight, real marquee name, but they've also added some other guys to the roster as well to really bolster it. Are you drinking the Kool-Aid, or are you still kind of like, well, we have to wait and see?
Oh, I'm drinking that Nashville Kool-Aid. I'm drinking it. Not that I want to be, but
yeah,
when you have the former captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning who helped lead his team to 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances, that's a damn good acquisition right there.
Yeah.
For your team. And then you still have Roman Josi and UC Saros. I mean, that's just deadly. Like that, I have a feeling that they are going to contend for the top of the Central Division, like no doubt. I think it'll be a 3-race horse between the Avs and the Stars and the Predators. I think maybe there will be 5 points between those 3 at the top of the division by the end of the year. That's how close I think it's going to be. Now, with that being said, each of these 3 teams at full strength, I'm taking the Avs because and I say this with a very big if, Landeskog and Nichushkin and everybody's back, everyone's healthy, by, I don't know, say February, March, whatever, towards that final stretch of the season going into the playoffs. Oh boy, look out, right? That just seems like a hard team to beat, and that might give the Avs, at least a little bit of favor going into the end of the regular season and into the start of the postseason, at least. But it might be a struggle for the first little bit of the season without any of those guys in it. But yeah, I'm drinking the Nashville Kool-Aid. It's going to be very close between, I would say, all 3 of those teams this year. And then, Winnipeg will be a wild card team, in my opinion. And then the Blues, Blackhawks, and Utah can kind of battle it out down below, and Minnesota too.
I wonder if the Blackhawks make a little bit of a jump this year, just based on one more year with the ability to build around Mr. Bedard down there. But I also feel like at minimum, Nashville should pose a threat. And anytime you bring in, like you mentioned, like a leader like Stamkos, it should shock the system there enough that they are competitive. And that should mean they're a playoff team. And if they take a while to get the ball rolling and they end up as a wild card team, I don't want to play them. That's just my opinion. We'll see what happens when it shakes out. But, you also talked a little bit about how the Avs might stack up, how it might be really close in the division when the season is over. Jackie, Evan lays out how we're hopeful. He mentions the bold if, X's new bold feature, if Landeskog can come back. That feels like a hope. And you've talked about it's kind of scary to just be riding on a hope. Where do you think the Avs end up in this division? And how do you think that kind of hoping is setting us up in the future?
Well, I'd like to see who they actually keep on the roster before I truly decide how I feel about what this team's going to do. I don't like to hinge it on like, oh, well, if we have Landeskog and we have Lehkonen and we have Nichushkin back and then things are great again. Like, somebody else is going to be missing. So,
Yeah.
do we not remember how this works? Like, we're going to be missing some other guys. Let's just hope, knock on wood, it's not a real big name, because that could be real big trouble. But that's why I don't like to say, like, oh, we've got these guys coming. There's 3 big names that could help us a lot. And their situations are each so different, and their problems, I guess, apparently are serious. Like Bednar keeps saying how serious Lekkonen's injury was.
Mhm.
So that's why I don't like to think of it that way. I do think, like, there might be some reinforcement coming, but you just don't know what the give and take is there. As far as, like, I guess I really can't sit here and say, oh no, the Avs aren't going to make the playoffs. Are they going to be in more of a fight? Like, are these points going to matter? Are these March games going to matter? That could be possible. I don't think it's a big deal if they're second or third in the division. I think if they're set there, then they know they're a playoff team, and I think they can be comfortable that way. I don't think they need to kill themselves to win the division like they did several years ago.
Mhm.
So I guess if I had to say right now, like second or third in the division, I think they could probably solidly put themselves there if there's no disaster. If at least one of those big names, or I guess we can reasonably expect Lekkonen to be back, but they need one of the other two minimum.
Yeah.
So if we get Lekkonen and one of the other two, and there isn't like a big disaster, maybe that's good enough. But me, as far as what I'm expecting out of the division, I'm more into let's just see how this Nashville new collection works, because sometimes it's a lot better on paper than it is in reality, and Stamkos is getting a little up there in age. The team that I'm keying on is Utah. I think they're going to make a big push, because I think they've had the talent. They've had that group together for several years. They're not riding on just kids, but they have some really talented kids. I mean, that Genther, I saw those goals he scored. That kid might score 30 goals this year. That's going to be huge for them. They just paid him like, what, $70 million or something?
Yeah.
Like, they just gave him a lot of money too. And so he could make a big impact for them. I think about the stability. They're going to have money behind them. They'll probably make some ridiculous deadline addition. I think Utah is going to be pushing. And this is a team that has played the Avs tough for several years now.
I was going to say, it's kind of I mean, if they name themselves the Yeti, it's a rivalry right off the rip. And they were kind of already rivals because they were the Coyotes, and the Avs had a sneaky little spat with them. I know, obviously, I think it was Garland, right, that McKinnon threw the helmet at. He wasn't there anymore, but I still think some of the animosity between those teams kind of prevailed as we even saw the years go by beyond that incident. So, like, I'm with you, and I have this idea, because as I was, going over our bold prediction log, I'm like, oh boy, we're all so bold all the time. I need to figure out a way to rein us in. So I've decided that in our next edition, which will be, I believe, our last episode before the opening game of the regular season, we're going to do some season-long bold predictions, and the ding for that will be extra special. So, Jackie, I think you can save one of these season-long bold predictions is the Utah playoff thing. I like that.
Yeah,
and
for
even
sure.
the Gutierrez 30 goal
Yeah,
thing.
okay, I'll go
Might
down
even
for
be
that.
a good one. So I'll save it for next week. So you can sit on those, decide if you want to do both or one of the two. But yeah, so next week we'll do kind of a season long one, and there'll be an extra fun ding for that if you get it as the year goes on. But Ezra, Jackie's got Utah as a dark horse, and let's expand this beyond the division. Is there a team in the NHL this year that you think will sneak up on some teams?
I think Utah's a good pick for it. I definitely see why. I would say that I'm also interested to see what happens in Anaheim. I know they're not very they're not far enough along to really like threaten for a playoff spot, but I'm curious to see how all those young pieces fit together and what happens there. I think the Atlantic is also kind of up for grabs in a way. Like the playoff spots are pretty typically locked down between the Panthers, Bruins, Leafs, and Lightning, but the Bruins and Lightning have made a lot of changes, and the Red Wings, Sabres, and Senators are all teams on the rise. So there's a possibility you could see some change there. I'm not going to claim every single team, but I think the main place I would look is the Pacific, really, because
okay.
I am interested to see if the Ducks can unseat a playoff team. I don't think they can, but I'm interested to see how much they can really push. for it.
Well, I mean, like look, just a couple years ago, Buffalo got an outrageous season from what can I think of
Tage
the
Thompson.
Thompson.
Yeah, from Tage Thompson, and that was enough, I believe, to secure them a quick no. They missed. They didn't make
They
it.
missed by 1 point. I think they
Okay.
had 91 and Florida had 92
That's right.
that year.
So,
but
so we'll see on Anaheim. I like Anaheim as a pick. I like a lot of these teams with these young guys as obviously a dark horse pick because they have potential that hasn't quite been realized yet. But Evan, is there a team that you're kind of keying on? And you started to talk about the Jeremy Swayman situation, and I want to go into La La Land with that. So tell me what you've seen from the Swayman situation and your NHL dark horse this year.
Well, my NHL dark horse is the closest one that's close to me in the middle of nowhere, New York up here. Is the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
I've kind of touched on already in the past of they've always kind of had a soft spot in my heart. Now that Bo Byram's there, that's a big help. And you have Tage Thompson, up there, who's a crazy athlete from time to time.
Yeah.
Rasmus Dahlin, of course, who just got named captain of the team. That's a pretty big deal for him in that side. And yeah, I like what they have. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And like they've had their moments. It's just a matter of putting it all together and making a run. And of course, that's a lot easier said than done. So, yeah, just a matter of time, I think, to see how that one plays out. But yeah, the Jeremy Swayman situation. I'll be honest. I may have gone to school in my undergrad as a political science and like working with law and lawyers and attorneys and all this sort of stuff. I have no idea what any of this means in terms of, whatever, right? Analyzing all this money stuff. It's unbelievable, ridiculous. Is Boston really about to lose both of their goaltenders? Like, it's insane. I don't know. I can't read too much into it. But yeah, it's nuts. And I've seen you going into La La Land, Adrian. So I want to see what you have to say.
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, I tweeted out and was like, in Ezra's video game world, let's put it that way, we're trading for Swayman. We're trading for Swayman in NHL world. So sometimes I think that there is kind of a crossover, not all the time, definitely not most of the time, but I think what happens
they literally have nothing.
Yeah, I understand.
They have nothing. There's nothing they could trade for him.
Logistically, it doesn't really make sense. I understand that, but I also think that you consider that, but then there's always the third team in the trade thing that could change that potentially. And we've seen this happen before as Avs lovers. Like Patrick Waugh, if you would have told somebody a year and a half before Patrick Waugh was traded that Patrick Waugh was going to get traded from the Canadiens to the Avalanche and the packages that were going to be exchanged, you would have been laughed out of whatever building you were in. But that ended up becoming a reality, and it was all because of an extenuating circumstance, which was a relationship that was severed in an instant. And I'm like, we're bordering a moment in time where Swayman's relationship with management in Boston is borderline severed. He will end up playing goalie somewhere. And if it doesn't want to play in Boston, he won't play there. So it's like, obviously, I think for the Avalanche, in a list of the 31 other teams who could get him, I think the Avalanche are probably on the bottom 5 of that list. But I don't think
can't pay him.
Yeah, but I mean, like, and this is no one may ever watch the show again after I say this, but in a hypothetical world, we see this Mikko Rantanen situation. He wants $14 million. Could you trade Mikko Rantanen for Swayman with a piece? In your heart of hearts, would you feel all right with that?
No, they wouldn't be good enough. I mean, Swayman's good, but I mean,
because there's at least this year, I believe it's $7 million, right, for Mikko. 9.9. So I mean, Swayman
that
wants
wouldn't make
10.
him better.
It wouldn't make them better. You're right.
No,
I agree.
They would make
the
playoffs.
You would think they would miss the playoffs without Mikko?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I don't disagree necessarily, but I mean,
if you have to move Mikko, okay, I can accept that. If you know internally it's not happening and you have to move him, but that's not what I'd want back.
I was gonna say, is that your target even if
No,
that's the case?
not
Yeah.
even close. No.
It has to be a forward, really. I mean, that's like the Avalanche would be dealing from a position of weakness, trading a forward away. Like the forward core is where they need bodies. So
Yeah,
to move
agreed.
a forward out to get a goalie, you're like, okay, I guess now we trade Grubauer for a forward. Not Grubauer. Whoa, what year do I live in?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all the same anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then you can trade Georgiev for whatever. The chips, the dominoes start to fall.
Because then
And
you're
this is how I play
paying
the
this
game.
goalie the Miko money, so then you can't even replace Miko with a good forward.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. If we go down that route and then you trade Georgiev for, I don't even know, like who would fit in that Georgiev price range that would be anywhere near Rantanen capability.
Basically, like a backup. Basically,
All right.
like what he
All-
was sort of.
All
like
I'm
a
saying is
1B
in
backup.
my NHL 25 season, I'm gonna trade Miko for Swayman, and I'm gonna make Cal Ritchie play on the first line.
I mean, I like that part.
You're gonna
but
miss the playoffs.
he just wouldn't be my dream. He's not a guy. I mean, if it was like, hey, we got him for free, we got him for Kovalenko, I'd
but-
be like, all right, let's go. But
I'm playing on rookie, and Cal Ritchie's gonna score 50 goals. Like let's
Oh,
let's
okay.
remember.
but I don't know. That's not my
That was
dream.
like-
If I'm dreaming, I'm thinking of some real good names. I mean, can we
Yeah.
at least get Netchas or something? I
There
mean,
you go.
goodness.
He's honestly Natchez is my favorite player. That's not an Avalanche, so it's funny that you mentioned him. 'cause
I
that
wouldn't
was
say
so
why
nice.
I'd like Svechnikov more, but
Yeah, I'd like
you
him
know,
in an
I do
NS.
want to answer real quick on because we're probably gonna switch topics. I co-sign Evan with the Buffalo thing. It's
Same.
not just because of Byram. I watched a bit of that team after the trade. Like there are some good players on that team. Like
Mhm.
don't sleep on the name JJ Paterka. They have some good young players. Quinn, Jack Benson.
Quinn. I love Jack Quinn.
They have power still. They have Byram in their defense. I mean, they got it all really. They just have to. If Lindy Ruff can help them, and I know everyone laughed because Lindy Ruff went back there, but like he made New Jersey good. So
Yeah.
there's like definitely potential. They're going to be a fun team to watch. It's
And they have
just-
a couple of young goalies who, if somebody can really step up and take the crease, then they're going to be in good shape.
yeah, they paid Pekaluna, UPL, whatever. Yeah, they paid him a good amount. Like he's going to be their starter, and then Levi's still their young guy.
Yeah.
I think the beginning of last year they got in trouble because they tried to roll with Levi, and they lost some games, and they never really able to crawl out of the hole. So I think that he's going to be put more in like that 1B backup role because they have a lot of trust in the other guy now. But I definitely would watch them. Even outside of Byron, there's a lot going on there. But I also want to say I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think Columbus will be a lot better than people expect.
Nice.
I just think that a tragedy like that, and I don't want to use it as a reason, but it just galvanizes. It brings everyone together. It gives them a purpose. And I felt like they never were really trying to tank like some of these other teams. I think 2 years ago was injuries, which just killed them. And that's why they were so poor. And last year, I think Pascal Vincent was an awful coach. I think that was the problem last year. So I think there's more talent there, even without sadly missing Gaudreau. But I just think that team is going to be way better than people expect. They're going to be competitive. They're going to have a driving force. There's talent there. There's young talent. And they're not going to be the doormats that everyone expects.
I like it. That would be
You
awesome.
just love Jack Johnson, Jackie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a Stanley Cup winner, so I mean,
He's
you have
never-
that on your team.
Yeah. Well,
That's Stanley Cup champion Jack Johnson. to
that's
you.
right. Exactly. My dark horse team is the Capitals because they still have Ovechkin, and somehow he's still playing. And he
Can they be
probably
a dark
moves the
horse
board.
if they made the playoffs last year?
I mean, kind
No
of. I
one
mean, they
wanted that
barely
big
made the playoffs.
spot.
Didn't they make the playoffs on the last game of the season? Like,
Yeah.
So
I'll give you a reason. I like that. I like that bold one. I'll give you a reason because of Pierre-Luc Dubois. That's why.
PLD, baby. I've always been a PLD fan, and he's made me look
I
pretty
think
stupid.
he's good in a good. He's good if he's in the right situation. So
Yeah.
if he's comfortable there, it could really help
Could
them.
work out. Yep, I'm with you.
I guess we should go back to Columbus then, because he hasn't been good since he left.
Since then, yeah.
He was good in Winnipeg.
Yeah,
had a good season. He had a
he
good-
had a good season. He did not finish well. We'll put it that way. They were ready to kick him out of town after the playoffs. So
No, they wanted to extend him. He didn't want to sign long term there. They would have.
no, the
extended
team
him.
did. The fans, though, I guess I should say, were
Oh,
sick
okay.
of
Well,
the
I can't
PLD,
speak
yeah.
for what they wanted. I think they were just mad because they knew he didn't want to sign there. They
Yeah,
would like kick him out the door, kind of thing.
gotcha. If you don't want to be here, get rid of him, kind of thing. I gotcha. Well, let's move on to our last two kind of topics of the day, which this first one is called Give and Take, and it's the Young Guns edition. Folks, we basically have been discussing kind of how 5, I think it turned into 6, and now it's kind of turned into 7, but bubbled players for the Avalanche and how they rank amongst each other through these 4 weeks of preseason and training camp. So basically, the individuals on that list were as follows. We had Kovalenko, Richie, Olausson, Malinsky, Foodie, Barons, and now we've added Ivan, as unfortunately Oscar Olausson has been cut from the squad. So we've done and made our picks. We either give a point, take a point, or give no points. Potentially could give or take 2 points if things really went worse. I believe, or better, I believe Olausson got -2. I believe Olausson got like -800 from Ezra at one point.
Oh,
which
did you
just-
change it?
I
It's
changed
not
it.
-800 anymore.
No, I changed it because it made our graph look so
Oh,
funny.
okay.
I would have left it. Look here, I'll just do it real quick for you.
No. That makes
I
sense.
wanna
You
see what
gotta
it
be
looks
able to
like.
see
Yeah,
it.
it's actually kind of funny when you look at the ticker. Oh, well, now it's not working. Hold on. I gotta do the formula still.
For the record, it was there you go.
That's what it looks like after
Okay,
you.
yeah, put it back so people can see.
Yeah.
Ezra put that in probably about 5 minutes after Olausson was cut.
Yeah,
You were
The
on
first
it.
thing I did when I saw the cuts.
yeah, that's amazing. Well, let's talk about kind of the way things have settled. Obviously, I kind of previewed a little bit and said that we added Ivan. We added him because one of our people got cut, which was Olausson. So let's look at these rankings here, and kind of here's how things are shaking up. Did you guys rate Ivan? I didn't look. Okay, cool.
I
We
did. I
all-
think I did.
Wow,
Yeah.
we all gave him a 1. Look at that. So that will put him at 4 points. He'll still be below Malinsky. But let's talk first about the Olausson cut. Who wants to take this one? Because I feel like
I'll start.
it's gonna say. Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't start actually, but I don't know. Okay, I guess I thought it'd be Barons would be the one that was cut by now. Not that, I mean, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit more. Not that I think he's been bad. He has no shot at making this team. So like, he's gonna have to go to the Eagles soon. I don't know. I think it's easy to isolate Olausson when he's the one that's cut, but the others aren't. You know, Foodie, etc. Like they're gonna be cut so soon.
Yeah.
It's all gonna be kind of the same thing. I just feel the same thing. He's 21 years old. You know, it would have been nice if he made this team. Was he really in the running? Like realistically? So, I mean, you could say he was disappointing and he didn't do what he needed to do and blah, blah, blah. But I just don't think it really changes a whole lot.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't really see the games he played in. So, okay, could I accept maybe he didn't look as good as he needed to? But I saw what I saw in camp and I thought that he made a real conscious effort to try to bring the physicality, try to work on these things. I just hate like just devaluing it all and, oh, he was just a bad pick. Like, oh, well, he's not a battler. Like, he was never going to make it. Just to me, all that stuff is just so cheap. Like, everyone deserves to have, I don't know. I just don't want somebody reduced to that because it's not that simple. And somebody picked him and somebody gave him an NHL contract, and which he still has 2 years left on.
Yep.
But I mean, I guess you could say he's not going to fit in Bednar's system, so I guess he's just going to waste the next 2 years of his life. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. I mean, I gave him -2. I guess if you get cut, you probably
Kind of have to.
are -2.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that my opinion of his game has drastically changed. I think there's talent there. I think he needs help to realize his potential. Can this organization give him that help? Does he need more help that any organization can give him? Possibly. But I still think there's you can't just boil it down to one thing. I still think there's a lot of context in there that probably will not be explored.
Okay, so I wanna keep it here with you, Jackie, and then Evan, I want to get your thoughts after what she says. But I brought a tweet to the Slack channel that I wanted y'all to read in regards to this topic because I feel like although he didn't name names, I think he might have been talking about Oscar Olausen, and I want to see what you think about this, Jackie. But the quote is, and it's from Megan Engley of Guerrilla Sports. So thank you, Megan. It's some guys, if this is Bednar speaking, quote unquote, some guys, if they play a certain role, we may not have that opening. So can they do something different for us? And if the answer is no, if they can't fill the need that we have right now, then they're probably going to go back to the Eagles. Whoever can fill the spots that we're looking to fill or beat someone out of a job that does already fill those spots, they'll continue to play and we'll continue to make those tough decisions. Do you think that this is about Oscar Olausen?
No.
No?
No, nobody even asked him about Olausen. He's not talking about Olausen. I would recommend to listen to the whole presser from today. It was like 10 or 12 minutes. There's a lot of context in there, and there's going to be a few other things I bring up from that when we get to some other people. Okay. The question was that a lot of times what the question is so important to frame this context, because I believe it was Megan's question, and it was about Poland and Ivan, and about, you can't ever hear the exact words, but it was something like, because they came to the organization not through the draft, do you approach it any differently? So this is his answer. Okay. It's so about like, can you fill a role, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of the talk was about tonight's game. Is it important? Is it important for guys like Foodie? You know, if it's about anyone, it's about these guys. But then I get back to what I was saying. Who was realistically in the running for a roster spot this year? I mean, it's this romantic idea that it's all open competition, the best guy wins, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that. I believe they have a pretty darn good idea to begin with.
Yeah. And
maybe things will sway a little bit. But I think they already know right now who's making the team. I could tell you right now who I think is making the team.
Me too.
And it was not Olausen, and it's not Foodie.
No.
It's not Ivan, and it's not Poland.
And it's not Barons.
It's not Barons.
No. But let's touch on Foodie, because Foodie stayed in the 6th position despite adding a person to the list. Let's see who gave him a minus. Oh, no. Well, we would have all given him a 0 at that point then, right? Is this math wrong on here?
No.
That's wrong.
I think, are we moving on to Foodie then?
Yeah, let's move on to Foodie.
Okay, I'll just give my piece about Foodie, and then you guys. I think you all gave him a minus, so I give him a 0. I didn't see the game, so there's talk about disappointing play. I wasn't able to see it myself to evaluate it, and he's still there. I mean, he didn't get cut with Olausen, so we think Olausen getting cut before him was like this giant, piece of commentary on his career. But Foodie's still here, then that has to count for something, right?
Yeah.
Even though he'll probably get cut tomorrow. Let's be honest.
Exactly. I was gonna say.
But it hasn't happened yet, so therefore no minus.
Okay, yeah. So we got minuses from Ezra and from Evan. Ezra, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this minus really comes from more of the players around him than him. Like, Foodie is doing his thing out there. He hasn't changed in my eyes how he's playing. And that's maybe part of the problem to an extent, but but other guys have made it clear that they belong, and that there's just a numbers game. I feel like his chances of making the team went down, even though his play didn't necessarily go down. So I gave him the minus. I think what Bednar quote has a lot to do with Foodie, where he's a guy who is playing a top 6 kind of game, but not very effectively. And isn't going to make the top 6. That's just he's not there with his skill right now. Mm-hmm. And he's not playing a bottom 6 kind of game. He's not being effective defensively. He's not being he's trying to contribute creatively rather than with effort. And it's just not working. I think he's a guy who still has a ton of upside. Maybe like third line upside. Olausen, I also think, is a guy who still has a ton of upside. Both of them just aren't the fit for this roster. So they both, like Olesen obviously already got cut. Foodie, I think, is safe to say is going to get cut, and so that's why I give him the minus.
Okay. Anything that he didn't touch on, Evan, that gave you the minus there?
I mean, Ezra pretty much just nailed it.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing really against him. It's just, there's other options that are ahead of him.
Mhm.
I am surprised though that he did not get cut with Olausen. I definitely thought that both of them would have been going down together. I think it's more telling that Olausen went down earlier than Foodie did. I think that's more so on the part of Olausen than it is on Foodie, but
Mhm.
but I think we've already kind of touched on that subject already. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think Foodie. Sorry,
No,
Adrian,
okay.
if I may. I think the reason Foodie's still there is because he's a realistic call-up option, and they have to get him playing the defensive game they want if he's going to be that. So keep him around for a couple more games, drill that into him, see what you can do, and if he can bring that to the AHL, great, and then he might get a call-up. But yeah, Olausen
He
just
needs more than a call-up at this point. That's the other thing. It's like,
Yeah.
is Foodie's career over if he doesn't make the roster on night one? No, but
No.
he needs like significant time. Like
Mhm.
I've been saying this, he needs like that 20 game, like what Malinsky got. It just makes such a difference because if you're going to keep him around, you're going to have to qualify him. You're going to sign him a new contract. He's not going to have waiver exemption next year. So if you have any inkling about Foodie, it has to happen like now. And so, sure, if you're trying to get him, if you really want to see what these people can do, like I've said earlier, you need to play them with NHL players. You can't expect somebody to like be held to an NHL standard when they just have AHL teammates screwing up around them. So tonight's a big one for him. We'll see what line he is on though. That's the other thing. Is he even going to be on a decent line? So yeah, like I said, if he's cut, I mean, it's not 100% the end of the world, but there has to be like a plan to use him in a real way this year.
Yeah. Well, if things go by our ticker, which I mean they have so far, but only because we all gave Olausen -2s between now and the last week, or last week and now. But then the next on the chopping block would probably be Foodie, which we've discussed. And then Sean Behrens, which I want to talk about Behrens. Like Behrens hasn't moved, I think, a single point in any direction this entire time. In week 1, he got a minus and a plus. In week 2, he got a minus and a plus. Okay, so now in week 3, he's finally underwater at a -1. So I got to fix that here. So I guess kind of like is his lack of movement pretty descriptive in how his camp and how his preseason has gone? Anyone of you can take this.
I'll just say I feel like our opinions haven't changed. I feel like if you liked him, you still like him. I'm not going to say I don't like him. He's not making this team. So to me, like, how am I going to give that a positive?
Yeah.
It's just the same. Just we're all we view him and his potential in his career kind of the same. And like, yeah, good for him that he's still there. Good for him he's getting more games. Like to Bednar, that's a positive. It was interesting hearing Bednar explain he did not like him at rookie camp at all. That was kind of interesting that he admitted that today. But he said that he's improved and he likes that. But he said he's worried about this. He said at rookie camp he was worried about size and strength and pace. And like that's not changing in like 10 days. So even though Bednar framed it in a nicer way, that he's improved, he likes what he's seeing from him, he's still there. Those are all positives for him. But if you kind of read between the lines,
yeah,
it was just never going to happen. Now the thing is it going to happen in the future? But I just think he materially hasn't really changed much. He's a good prospect. He showed all right. He's just kind of there.
Well, we just hit 1,000 live viewers, so folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, we're over here talking to 1,000 people about prospects. It's freaking amazing. It's freaking hockey season. We're back, baby.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to me. I know that my my takes are a little hard to take
Hey,
sometimes.
we need a little bit of realism in this room, especially when Ado's talking about trading Rantanen for Swayman. But let's talk about two people. Evan, excuse me. Talk about Ivan, and talk about Mr. Sam Malinsky, who flashed a little bit of that Kel McCarr-esque speed in the preseason game as of late.
Yeah, I'll admit, looking at this graph, I am surprised that Malinsky and Ivan are both on the same level for week 3 on 4 points. I definitely thought that Malinsky would have been above Ivan. So I'll go Malinsky first because he, in my opinion at least, he should be the 7th defender. I thought he was going to be the 6th defender, the Jack Johnson replacement. That did not happen. But man, he is making it hard to not keep him on the team pretty much. He had the beautiful goal against Utah where he kind of went coast to coast. Kel McCarr with that nice backhander through Vijmelka. That was really good to see. And then his stretch, he was the one that fed the stretch pass to Cal Ritchie for that breakaway goal. I think that kind of went unnoticed because of the Ritchie goal. So he's really proving that he should be on the team. And I think Bednar mentioned for the first time too that they are considering carrying 8 defenders with them. So you can maybe give Ezra that ding right now for that. But,
I'll wait till it's official.
Yeah.
but no, he's doing a phenomenal job. I think that he should have been, at least a part of the top 6 going into this season. But the Avs decided to look elsewhere, at least for the time being. But if Malinsky keeps this up, going into the regular season and gets some solid playing time, I would not be surprised for him to fully solidify his spot on the NHL roster because he's getting real close to earning it, and that's a big deal. That hasn't happened in a while.
Yeah,
where we've seen
someone. It goes back to what I said. Were they going to waive him? Were they ever going to waive him?
And that's the thing too. Yeah, the waiver exemption is gone for him. That's the other thing too, is that
he's got to play.
And good for him that he's given them a reason. That's always nice. But it also says he's now got even more on tape. There's no way they're going to waive this guy.
For the lack of a better term, you're stuck with him.
I guess for me, why I haven't been giving him a +2 or whatever is just this is kind of what I expected. I expected that he's going to play well enough that they're not going to change their mind and waive him. Yeah. But I thought his camp was a little quiet. But I agree that in the game, especially the game I was able to see live, he was very good. That not perfect, still a little defensive here and there, but definitely shown enough, been impressive. I guess maybe there's a real question: why wouldn't he start over Brandstrom or Chillington? Yeah. Why wouldn't it not be him and DeHaan as the bottom pair to start? I don't know. I still think that's a possibility.
I'd rather scratch one of those guys than rising Malinsky. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's what I was asking. When Shillington and when Don, when all those guys were signed, I was like, well, what about Malinsky? But anyway, that's beating a dead horse.
Well, I think at the end of the day, in week 4, I imagine Malinsky will surpass Ivan.
I'd imagine so too.
On this list, yeah.
Well, Ivan just got the pluses because I said, well, he's still here, and a lot of he's not. Let's add him. So if you're going to add him, you got to give him a plus, right?
I agree. Yeah, which I think is all 4 of us gave him.
And it's warranted, but if we had been tracking him through this whole thing, would his number be different? Maybe. But like Benner said, it's still there.
Ezra said yes.
Well, because he had ups and downs himself.
Yeah.
I think this would have been all of us giving him a 1 this week would have been balanced out by some minuses previously.
Fair enough. I think that's true.
But he also deserves to be where he is. He earned a spot. He got praise from Bednar and Presser. He deserves it. He did great. And I think he is somebody who could realistically push for a 13th forward spot if there was going to be one, which I think is a reasonable question to ask. Is there going to be a 13th forward on the roster?
They're not going to spend the money on it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either, because they can easily call up guys and put them back down, and it'll be fine. But
I think they're going to try to paper Kovalenko every single day, because they can't send any of the D down. If they keep Ritchie, they can't move him.
Yeah.
So Kovalenko's going to be the only guy that they can actually move. And I think they're going to paper him every day to try to squeeze as much money as they can to cover for
going to
when
be insane this year.
Nuke comes back, knock on wood. So, I mean, if they, for example, kept Foodie but not Richie, then they could do that with him too and save a little bit more money. But, you know, I doubt they're going to do that.
Well, that leads me to the next topic, which is the top two guys on this list, which coincidentally they're on the same trajectory from week 2 to week 3. Those two being Kovalenko and Cal Ritchie. Ezra, Kovalenko, like all I could read about him, about the Avalanche in the preseason game was how well he was playing. Tell me what you feel, how you feel about this question. We have Ritchie ranked above Kovalenko, but do you think Kovalenko has a more realistic chance of sticking with the Avalanche this season?
I do. I think for me, like it makes sense to me that Ritchie has higher marks on this kind of chart than Kovalenko, because the baseline for Kovalenko was this guy's going to make the roster.
Yeah.
So all he had to do was show like, oh wait, no, this guy should get a chance next to Nathan MacKinnon, which he did, which is amazing. I mean, his preseason game with the 2 assists, dominating all over the ice was wonderful. After a kind of quiet first game, and then to get, personal praise from Bednar and the presser is big. So I think it makes sense that he's rising the way he has, and it makes sense that Ritchie's higher up because this is a guy who we were really excited to see if he could make it, and had more rising to do from prospect to roster player. Right. And he's obviously not a guaranteed roster player at this point, but it seems like he's going to get a shot at least getting those 9 games of his trial. So. Yeah. It makes sense to me, but Kovalenko's the guy I would say Kovalenko and Malinsky of the guys on this list are the two that you can say will be on the NHL roster all year. The other guys, I don't think that's.
I agree. If Ritchie that will be great for this team. But I agree with you. Yeah,
Kovalenko could still get sent down though. He doesn't need waivers. But I mean,
I don't think he will.
Well, it's true because he's not going to just sit there. They pretty much have to decide that they're going to move on. But yeah, I see it that way too. It's easier to give Ritchie pluses. That's true. Their expectations a little bit different. I do think that Kovalenko had a good shot to make it because of his age, because came over. He's not going to sit around in the AHL. And I'm glad that he's done what he's got to show, that really feisty that I don't even think people have really seen it yet. He can be so aggressive, and I think that's cool, but it's just you just hope he doesn't get over the line a little too much. I think it was interesting what Benner said about like play your game, and everyone thinks that means, play hard and forecheck and do the things that we saw in that Dallas game that everyone really liked. And that's true, but then, like, the very, very, very last thing Bednar said in this press conference that I don't think anyone tweeted was, don't get cute with the puck. That part is important.
Yeah.
That's what he doesn't want to see.
Like a call out of Ritchie to me. But, sorry.
No, I think that's a Kovalenko thing, because he can be risky.
Yeah.
And,
but there was one play. I'm sorry. Ritchie made one play in the defensive zone in that game where he tried to just, like, casually tap a puck backwards between his own legs to his defender, completely missed, turned it over, and I was like, oh, Bednar's going to run him for that tape. He's going to watch that so many times. Oh
laser pointer circling around Cal Ritchie.
Well, everybody needs to manage the puck. Like, it's not just one person.
No,
but this was specifically about Kovalenko, and I think especially if it's true that they're putting him on that line with MacKinnon and Rantanen. They don't want him to get sucked into thinking like, oh, I can toe drag like these guys. Even though Kovalenko does have skill, but that's not what you're there for. You're there to get them the puck, use your vision, make great passes, retrieve the puck. Like he has more to give than, say, O'Connor would in that spot. But they're also saying you're not going to be Mikko Rantanen, so keep it simple.
Well, I'm not going to be Mikko Rantanen either. I'm just going to move on to the next segment. I'm not going to try and play hero. We're going to do our bold predictions, and then we're going to get the heck out of here because I've kept you guys already for 10 minutes longer than you're contractually obligated in this imaginary contract I've had.
We got a hockey game to watch.
Yeah, we didn't say. I'll say about Ritchie. I think Bednar's been hinting that Ritchie makes the team. Just
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's my first bold prediction log to recap, which is Rudo saying he thinks Richie gets NHL games this year. Ezra, all 8 defenders will be on the roster, sort of in line with that right now with the Malinsky talk. At least 4 preseason games from Cal Ritchie. And you said that Mikko Rantanen would sign on September 30th. I'm sorry, sir. He didn't do that. We could have given you a wrong buzzer like 6 weeks ago because you said for 9 years, but I knew you were doing it in a tongue-in-cheek way. You said Justus Annunen would not give up a goal between our last show and this show. I'm sorry. He definitely didn't do that.
He gave us some bad ones too.
Yeah. Jackie, you have that the Avs will add a goaltender via the waiver wire or trade before the season starts.
Still believe that.
It's still alive. So I'm not.
Was an early cut.
Yeah, so I'm not giving you an X yet for that one, but I have to give you an X because you had Mikko signing on the 29th.
That's fine. That definitely did not happen.
And I had someone in Utah scoring a hat trick for the Avalanche. That didn't happen.
Utah almost scored a hat trick.
You were real close, yeah.
Evan, you said Mikko will get paid less than McKinnon if Mikko does not sign before the season starts. We'll find out about that. And you had the Avs beating both the Utah Hockey Club and the Dallas Stars, which I'm sorry, my friend, the Avs are winless. So we all know that that is a wrong buzzer. We do have 1, maybe 2 check marks, dings to hand out this week. First of which is Jackie's bold prediction from last week, which was that 1 member of our ticker would be cut by the next show. Sorry, Oscar Olausen, but Jackie gets a ding for that one.
They all can't be bold hopes.
And Ezra, you had, what was it? Someone playing with someone, right? Kovalenko and Casey Middlestat together. Oh, no,
I said that, but that was about camp. So, I mean, we can just erase that one.
Ezra, what am I missing?
Barons and Malinsky. But...
Barons and Malinsky, and they'll be good. We can find out about that tonight. So we'll see about it. Yeah. But let's run that track and let's get our bold predictions this week.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
All right, folks, we got 1,232 of you listening right now. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please send us your hashtag bold predictions on our Twitter page. That's at all caps MHH_lab and at
Yes, we'd love to shout
Hockey.
A couple of them out.
Yeah, we like to give dings out to the listeners too. So you can come collect your flowers in the next edition if your bold prediction is correct. So thank you all for listening. Send those our way. Let's go ladies first today. Jackie, what you got for me?
Oh, I didn't have one ready.
Do you want to pass for now?
Yeah, pass for now. I need
Anybody ready now?
I am.
All right, Ezra, you go for it.
Well, Nikolai Kovalenko scored 2 points in his last game, his last preseason game, and I think he tops that tonight. I think Kovalenko gets 3, a goal and 2 assists.
Nice.
Playing with McKinnon? Oh, yeah. He's going to have some chances.
Yeah. I should have saved my hat trick prediction for this game.
I mean, do I need to just predict something terrible? Like they just say, forget the kids and keep Tynan and Poland and then
you don't have to, but you can
run screaming down the street.
So do you want to put that one down?
No.
Okay. Well, I got you down, Ezra, for Kovalenko having a 3-point night tonight. Evan, you said you were ready as well. What you got for me?
Well, my bold prediction last week backfired terribly. So we're going to hope the same here. Yeah. The Avalanche go winless for the rest of the preseason.
That would be funny.
That'd be funny. Good thing it's meaningless, but I already know the fans would lean into that way too much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what we do, baby. That's what we do. All right. I like that.
It's called reverse psychology, baby.
Yeah, baby.
All right. I'll make a bold prediction. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
I'll say between now and then the Avs pick up not a goalie, but a skater off of waivers.
I like it.
The only way I see that happening is if they decide that Belmar is not their guy and they find someone better.
Which I'm not saying that. I don't have a reason why I'm saying this. So I'm not saying because
that's fair.
They're done with Richie or they're done with Kobe. I don't know. I don't feel because I kind of feel like I know who's on the roster, so it's not going to be bold to say Richie makes it or anything. Like I said, I'm not feeling anything that I want to really predict. So I think that's something that people would not expect that the Avs could do in the next week.
All right, my bold prediction is that Annunen and Georgiev combine for a shutout tonight.
I think only one will play.
You think so?
Yeah, they're done
Well,
with splitting. They
they'll
only
still-
split.
They'll still combine technically then.
I mean, that would be good because, well, okay, you're right. Technically, would that work?
You
only way
could
we'll
be
probably have
obligatory being in that case.
Yeah, exactly.
The
guy with the hat on played
that
so
would not be
good.
good.
Yeah. All right, so we got Avalanche will go winless from Evan in the preseason, folks, not 0-82. Calm down. I have Annunen and Georgiev combined for a shutout. Jackie says only one of them will play, but hopefully I'm still right. Jackie, you say the Avalanche will pick up a skater before now in the next episode and off of waivers. Ezra, you've got Kovalenko with the 3-point night tonight. I like that one. I might sprinkle a little action on that because I really dig it. And Rudo, we still got you on the log for Cal Ritchie gets NHL games this year. So we're just going to get you on one day, and it's going to be for like 5 minutes, and it's just to get your ding, and then you can go back to being wonderful elsewhere. No, we'll get you back on the program.
Come on, we'll just flash a big picture of him and ding the bell.
Yeah. I'll get a cardboard cutout of him, and we'll put him behind me, and we'll have a fun.
You should have one anyway.
Yeah, this year with the regular season, I'm really going to try work harder to get guests from the opposition team and within the week that we're playing. So folks, keep your eyes out on that. So yeah, that'll be cool. We are almost to 1,300 live viewers, which is crazy to me. I don't think we've posted numbers like that in a long time. So that makes me feel like hockey season is truly around the corner. So folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Please head over to our website, milehighhockey.com, for all of your written material following the Colorado Avalanche. And please give us a follow on X at @MHH_lab and at Mile High Hockey. And lastly, please head on over to our Apple Podcast and Spotify podcast, preferred podcast platform catalogs. We have every single one of our 73, about to be 74 Mile High Hockey Labs available on those platforms. So give it a listen. You can speed it up so I sound like a chipmunk and you don't have to listen to me for as long. It's a real good time. But folks, thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Jackie K, Ezra Parter, Evan Lou, my name is Adrian Hernandez. I am your host of the Mile High Hockey Lab, and I hope you folks have a wonderful evening. And of course, go Avalanche.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.